We've been on a long journey together. We've explored why smart people believe in bubbles, why you can be wrong most of the time and still win, the difference between being rich and being wealthy, and the profound power of knowing when you have enough. It can feel like a lot to remember a dozen different mental models for a dozen different situations. The financial world seems infinitely complex, designed to make you feel like you're always missing something. But what if it's not? What if all these powerful ideas, all these stories and lessons, could be distilled down to just a few core, fundamental traits? What if there was a simple DNA of financial success? Today, we put it all together. We are going to synthesize the most important lessons from the psychology of money into a single, unified theory. These aren't tactics or stock tips. They are the deep-seated character traits that separate those who achieve lasting financial peace from those who are in a state of perpetual anxiety and struggle. After all the analysis, all the history, and all the stories, it comes down to this: building wealth is not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about mastering a few key behaviors. Let's decode the three strands that form the DNA of true wealth: humility, patience, and reasonableness. The first strand, humility. This is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Financial humility is not about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less often. It's the profound, gut-level understanding that the world is bigger, more complex, and more random than your own personal experience. Humility is the wisdom you gain from understanding the brutal roles of luck and risk. It's the quiet acknowledgement that your successes weren't entirely your own doing, and your failures weren't entirely your own fault. This prevents the dangerous overconfidence that leads to ruin. The person who is humbled doesn't believe they are a genius who can't lose. Humility is the antidote to the seduction of pessimism. It's knowing that you cannot predict the future. So, you don't bet your entire fortune on a single outcome. The humble investor doesn't to believe they can outsmart the collective wisdom of the market or time the next crash perfectly. In practice, humility looks like a high savings rate. You save money not just for a specific goal, but because you are humble enough to admit that the future is uncertain and will contain surprises. Savings are your margin of safety against the unexpected. Humility looks like diversification. You don't put all your eggs in one basket because you are humble enough to admit you don't know which basket is going to succeed. Humility is the engine behind the mindset of staying rich, because it's the constant whisper in your ear that says, "What I have can be taken away." Without humility, you take on too much risk, you become overconfident, and eventually, the world will teach you a lesson you can't afford to learn. The second strand, patience. If humility is the foundation, patience is the engine of growth. Patience is the ability to think and act in decades, not days or months. It is the most powerful yet most scarce resource in modern finance. Patience is the only way to unlock the mind-bending power of compounding. As we learned, our linear brains can't intuitively grasp how small, consistent efforts can explode into massive fortunes over time. Patience is the bridge between our linear minds and the exponential reality of wealth creation. It is the secret ingredient in Warren Buffett's success. Patience is what allows the long tail to work its magic, the idea that you can be wrong most of the time and still win big. You must have the patience to endure the many small losses and mediocre results, to remain in the game long enough for your one or two huge winners to emerge and define your entire financial success. In practice, patience looks like automation. You set up automatic investments every month and let the system run, removing your impatient, emotional brain from the equation. Patience looks like ignoring the noise, the daily market news, the hot stock tips, the friend who just doubled their money on a speculative bet. Patience is the discipline to stick with a sound strategy, even when it's boring. And for long stretches, a sound strategy is almost always boring. Without patience, you interrupt compounding at the worst possible times. You sell your winners too early. You abandon great plans because they aren't working fast enough. You never allow the seeds you plant to grow into giant trees. The third and final strand, reasonableness. If humility is your foundation and patience is your engine, reasonableness is your operating system. It's the filter through which you make all your decisions. Being reasonable is the understanding that a good enough plan that you can actually stick with is infinitely superior to a perfect plan that you abandon. This is the great battle of reasonable versus rational. The rational plan looks best on a spreadsheet. The reasonable plan works best in your real, messy, emotional life. A reasonable mindset accepts that the goal of wealth is to improve your life. It's the wisdom to pay off your mortgage for peace of mind, even if a spreadsheet says you could earn more in the market. It's having the courage to say, I have enough. You don't take cues from day traders if you're a long-term investor. You don't feel pressure to buy a huge house just because your colleagues are. You build a financial plan that is tailored to your own goals, your own temperament, and your own definition of a rich life. It's a plan that helps you sleep at night. So, how do these three strands of DNA work together? Humility admits, I don't know what the future holds. Patience says, I am willing to wait for that unknown future to unfold, for as long as it takes. And a reasonable plan says, I have built a strategy that is simple and comfortable enough for me to actually endure that long wait. They are a perfect, self-reinforcing system. Without humility, you take on too much risk and your patience is never tested because you get wiped out. Without patience, your humility is useless because you quit before compounding can do its work. And without a reasonable plan, your emotions will override both your humility and your patience. After all the analysis, all the history, all the stories, it comes down to this. Building wealth is not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the most humble, the most patient, and the most reasonable. And the good news is, they are traits that anyone, anywhere, can cultivate. This is the simple, powerful, unified theory of wealth. This is the DNA. Master it, and you'll master the game of money.